One of the biggest reasons our Canadian farm families started looking at living part-time in Thailand is actually the cost of living. In this video, we're breaking down the real differences between living in Canada and living in Thailand as a family. Canada is a beautiful country, and we really do love it here. However, in the more recent years, the cost of day-to-day survival here is getting more and more. Groceries, gas, rent, taxes, the list goes on. Next to nothing is fair price. Knowing what I know now about the price difference between Canada and Thailand, it actually makes me so angry to go out and eat now, or even just to shop, when I know that there's more to life than this. I have friends in the bigger cities telling me what their rent is nowadays, and I cannot fathom how any of them are affording it. Feeding my 3 kids nowadays, I dread going to the grocery store. I try so hard to budget, and I home make so many things now, but that's not how life should be. Add on top of this, kid program fees like sports or dance, in some cases school fees. It's just not sustainable for raising a family anymore. I knew I had to find another way to enjoy life again. Let's start with the basics. I can't even begin to explain the inexpensive food costs here. Now don't get me wrong, some things are priced higher. However, you could, if you wanted to, eat for $5 or less a day in Thailand. Now here I go spilling all my secrets. In many parts of Thailand, you can rent a beautiful place for a fraction of what housing costs in Canada. Transportation, there are buses, trains, tuk-tuks, I think is the way you pronounce that, motorbikes, and even walking as cheap options. Now I will be transparent. You can put your children in school in Thailand, however they are pricey. So, we are opting to homeschool at this point. From the start, the biggest expense our family will have is flights. The range overall for a round-trip price is $1,200 to $1,800 Canadian per ticket. Moving on to groceries. Canadian groceries for a family of 5 cost an average of $1,200 or more a month, with a continued 3 to 5% increase as the years go on. Now, it's not super common to buy groceries in Thailand. Why? Because markets exist and anything you could want or need would be found there. But we'll get into that later in this video. Maybe you need your basics and something you can't find at a market. Maybe you're weary of street food and prefer to stick to the Western food products. As per my research, the average cost of groceries in Thailand a month are 15,000 to 25,000 Thai baht, resulting in about $420 to $700 USD. Now, this may seem expensive even still, but like I said, when you are in Thailand, it is not very common that you will be buying full-on groceries like you would in Canada, as we do not have markets and street food in Canada. So take this number with a grain of salt, as it is very unlikely you would actually spend that much per month. You can also go to the local supermarkets and the costs would be much lower. Moving on to housing. Canadian housing prices, whether you rent or own, have increased in some areas significantly. As of early 2026, average monthly rent for a 2-bedroom family home in Canada generally ranges from $1,500 to over $3,000. Rent in Thailand typically ranges from 5,000 to 30,000 Thai baht. That's about 140 to 850 USD per month. Heavily dependent on location and property type. From apartments, condos, and houses, the price range can differ. Basic hotel rentals can be as cheap as $25 a night. So in the big picture, you can live well in Thailand for just under $2,000 a month. Where you decide to settle will have a large impact on your monthly expenses. Some areas are much cheaper than others. If you add in extra expenses like transportation, health insurance, school fees, and maybe just some fun money, then the cost could range from $2,200 to $4,500 a month. Travel health insurance typically costs 4% to 10% of your total trip costs, or around $7 to $10 Canadian per day for basic emergency medical coverage. For us, travel health insurance for a 6-month, 180-day trip for a Canadian typically ranges from roughly $300 to over $1,000 Canadian, depending heavily on age, pre-existing conditions, and coverage limits. Canadian passport holders make Thailand visas exempt for 60 days. You can then extend your stay for an additional 30 days at a local immigration office for 1,900 Thai baht. That is $80.35 Canadian. Just to touch base on markets, like I mentioned earlier in this video, Thailand is famous for their markets. From day markets to night markets to water markets, each is filled with different foods and shops for clothing, souvenirs, and goodies. A street meal would cost average of $2 to $6 Canadian, and trust me when I tell you the portions are plenty. So that's the basic breakdown. Of course, there are smaller costs to think about, like utilities if you stay long term somewhere, phone services, fund money, things like that. But I trust you get the idea of the basic big costs for living in Thailand for 6 months. Thank you so much for watching this video and following along with our journey. If our story interests you and you'd like to see how this all unfolds, we'd love to have you here. So don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps support our channel. We'll be sharing lots more videos soon, including the real behind the scenes of farm life and everything that goes into preparing our family to spend 6 months in Thailand each year. This is just the beginning of the journey, and we're excited to bring you along for the ride.